Welcome, everyone, to Women Who Lead and happy holidays. I'm so excited to round out the year. We're rounding out the year of 2021 with some of the brightest minds in the industry as we feature leaders who are part of what we call the tech world. Known as the techies, that's what I call them. These women are critical thinkers, problem solvers, and the brains behind many of the technology applications and solutions needed to help our organizations run securely and also effectively. My name is Teresa Blasio Smith, and I am Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Home Services of America and HSF affiliates. And I'm very passionate about the show, which features strong leaders within the industry and also incorporates una cafecito hour, like our cafecito hour. It's our coffee hour, which is a way of breaking bread. And I have found that in so many cultures across the country, this is how people get to know each other better. So you may not be aware of this, but women in what we call the science, technology, engineering, and math positions, STEM, right? If you've heard the word STEM, that's what that's all about. They're a minority in the workforce, and they only make up 28% of all jobs in the industry. So we are extremely lucky to have these leaders within our companies. And I can't wait to hear from these incredible women on what it takes to perform and succeed within like that male dominated field, right? So let's get started. Let me introduce Patty Smikle. Patty is the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Home Services of America. She has over 15 years of experience in industry and provides strategic direction to the company and 40 plus real estate brokerages and affiliated services that we offer. Patty oversees large-scale projects which involve centralization of IT services such as security, network, and also email. And Patty has presented at conferences across the industry on cybersecurity. Yes, a very important topic we're going to talk about today, as well as participating in continuing education courses for the title and legal industries. Patty also serves as a member of the Strategic Technology Advisory Group of the Realty Alliance organization, which is a network of North America's most elite real estate firms. That is so impressive, Patty. She's also participated as a member with Microsoft Digi Girls program. Is that correct? Did I pronounce it correct?
Yep.
And Patty, that is really neat. It's where that program gives high school girls an opportunity to learn about careers in technology. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Patty has a Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and holds also a Master of Arts degree from the University of Texas at Austin. That's very cool. Southern girl, right? Katie Stevens. Katie is the Director of Technology for Home Services of America and also Home Services of Nebraska. She works closely with Home Services and its operating companies to understand key opportunities, business requirements, and strategic priorities to ensure that our agents and consumer technology offerings meet those needs. Katie has been part of Home Services team for nearly 14 years, including over 10 years in the real estate technology area with Reese Nichols Real Estate out of Kansas. Katie has served on product advisory boards for multiple industry players, including Dotloop and Real Estate Digital. And all of you who are in real estate know how critical those two players are. She received her bachelor's of arts degree in PR and advertising, which I found interesting because that's where I got my degree and I could not do a single thing that you do. And she also has a master's in web development from Fort Hays State, which again, I know that's where you got that digital experience in the background in technology. It was very, very interesting. Maggie Wiegert. Maggie is Regional Marketing and IT Director for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate and Home Services of Nebraska. Maggie has over 15 years of experience in the real estate industry, and she started her career in real estate immediately after graduating from college in IT and marketing, and now oversees both of those departments. She represents a regional role covering the Lincoln and Omaha markets as well. And she adds so much value. I found this so interesting that you're also a licensed realtor, right? And that's really critical because you bring that personal expertise to your role. There's nothing like that. She acquired a great deal of training after serving on a help desk and training with CBS Home, where she got hands-on experience on the IT side, but also realized that she had a training for passion, a passion for training through that role. And I found it that you are a second generation realtor. Maggie, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And got her license with to help her mother in the business, but also to help pay her wedding. And I think that's so interesting because you realize the opportunities that real estate does to supplement income. So it's great. You recently volunteered as an assistant coach, and I find it so interesting because I was also a coach in sports and in these roles. And the women I've met, many of them have been or have always been involved in sports. So I think that has some kind of connection to our leadership backgrounds. She's also a graduate from the University of Nebraska with a degree in journalism and advertising. Again, another connection there. And one of the advantages that I have in my role at Home Services is the opportunity to speak at different summits and industry events. And I have had the privilege of meeting each of these talented women during conferences where they themselves have spoken or participated in panels, including our very own CEO Summit, which is the gathering of a lot of the CEOs in our company. And so I am so impressed with each of you. And I'm fascinated. I seriously am fascinated with what you do. So welcome. I can't wait. Let's get started. And first, I always ask the question, and a lot of it's in the background already. How did you get started in real estate? Patty, let me start with you first, and then I'll go to you, Katie, and then Maggie.
Yep. Thanks, Teresa. Actually, it was really unplanned. I was working at the time for Wells Fargo and had experience with them supporting the mortgage side of the house, which we also do. And after I left Wells Fargo, I was looking for another position, and there was an opportunity at Home Services. And so I took that opportunity in the IT department, and then really that's what started. I had to learn the whole real estate industry, but it's been great. I mean, very interesting the last 15 years, and real estate, mortgage, insurance, all the components of our what we do at Home Services.
Well, you do such a great job in your role. And I will tell you, for those who are not familiar with our industry, probably the lending side is the most critical part in the real estate piece, because that's where people get their funding. Not everyone has cash to buy a home. So understanding the products and the services that are part of that, we work very closely hand in hand with many of our service providers that are operation, including Prosperity Home Mortgage, which is our partner. And so it's great to have you with that background. How about you, Maggie? I think I said you, or is it Katie next?
You said Katie, but either one. I don't.
Okay, Katie, how about you?
I would happy to go. So I actually got started in real estate also very much by accident. In fact, there's, I think, two ways people get into real estate. Either it's a family business or it's an accident. It seems to be the two trends that I see. So I was actually working at an IBM business partner doing some very low-key development and running a training center. And I happened to meet a gentleman that I worked with whose wife was one of the top sales representatives for our mortgage company here at Home Services, which at the time was Plaza Mortgage. And so I had a referral into the company for Reese Nichols, and actually came in as an IT trainer. So really just a compliment to the help desk, getting out there, helping to understand what the agents did and tell them how to use all these tools and technology. And really just found a passion for it. I loved learning about the industry, even though when I joined, I couldn't even spell MLS. But those are the things that you learn, and now it's just a bug that you get bit with, and you really just find that passion for it. And I've been able to kind of grow and continue to learn as I've worked within the company. So that's my background.
And it's so true, Katie, that one of the things that we find is that people accidentally fall into this career or are second generation or knew somebody, a family member that was in it. And one of the things I'm hoping to do with this panel, and also with the women that are watching, is that they choose real estate by choice versus by chance, right? Which, people don't always know that you don't just have to be a realtor. You can work in the fields of technology, legal, and all those areas. So again, thank you for the work that you do. How about you, Maggie? And we know a little bit about your background, but how did you particularly find the track in out of the realtor side?
Sure. So, like we've already said, my mom was a real estate agent at Home Real Estate in Lincoln for I think 17 or 18 years. So, I kind of actually started there in college. I was getting close to graduating, and my husband was in law school. So we knew we were going to be in Lincoln for a little bit longer. Started working at Home Real Estate and Home Services of Nebraska. And then that was really just in marketing at that time. And a little bit in between IT. And so a lot of that was supporting web-based products. They wanted somebody in the middle of those two departments that quite honestly could, translate, I guess, some of what is happening online to our agents and to our other managers. So, and that role just grew, and I was thinking back about it. I was actually at a conference in Minneapolis when I met the IT director at CBS Home, and we had already moved to Omaha, and he said, "Do you want a job in Omaha?" And my gut reaction was no. And then I thought, well, maybe I should talk to him about this opportunity. And, for me at the time, commuting wasn't, you didn't telecommute. You were in the office at 8, out the door at 5. It wasn't quite as mobile as it could and is today. And that's really how I got into the more of the help desk, hands-on IT side. So it started middle of marketing and IT, and it's marketing and IT now, but really, really got the hands-on experience from help desk and answering those calls from agents and employees.
Very interesting. And also, I was an agent, so I totally understand the frustration that somebody has. I mean, when we first were introduced with the technology, I've been in it for a long time, people would break down and just cry, because they didn't even know how to turn on a computer. I mean, obviously we've come so far in the industry. We still have a ways to go, but it's so unique, the role and understanding the different applications, but more importantly, relaying it to an agent, because that's where the trick is, where they don't feel like, oh, she's talking now to me, I'm stupid, that kind of stuff. So again, just such a talent to be able to do that. One of the things that we see constantly, and our company is very vigilant about it. In fact, just because it's such a huge, in this country, even cybersecurity and awareness, and how important it is for each one of us to be vigilant regarding what our own personal usage is and the information that we share with others, especially when we are doing so much shopping now, right, today online. So, talk to me a bit about, why that's so important. Why, what are some things, that we need to do, to be wary of scams? And I'll start with you, Maggie, and then Katie and Patty.
So the number one thing I tell our group is, if it doesn't look legit, or if you have to ask yourself that question, it's not legit. So delete it, and let's move on. But we do, I'd always rather have somebody send it our way, make sure if it's legit or not. And then when it comes down to just protecting themselves, whether it's shopping online or the scam phone call from the person pretending to be Microsoft, they're not going to call you and remind you to renew your subscription. And so those are kind of the things to look out for. But it catches everybody. And so it's just always having that doubt in the back of your mind that, hey, this may not be legit, especially in real estate. Obviously, we're a huge target. I told Katie and Patty earlier, I was dealing with a compromised email account this morning. And so it's things that kind of come up on I hate to say day-to-day basis, maybe every other week. But it is an issue, and people still need to stay top of mind on security.
Katie, I think so right. So true. Everything,
Oh, absolutely, Maggie. And, I really think about it as terms of just go in with eyes wide open, understand what you're doing, understand, really think about what you are putting out there about yourself, about your personal life, your finances, And if it's not something that you would be comfortable disclosing to someone who's sitting right next to you, don't disclose it to the computer unless the pieces are there that you know are secure, and helping them to understand these are the signs to watch for: credibility, and so on and so forth. And then protect yourself. We live in a very amazing time where we can connect online and do so many things that our previous generations, or even us 15, 20 years ago, would have never imagined. And you don't want to lose those things. You don't want to lose that opportunity because you're scared, but find ways to protect yourself. Use things like MFA, like secure passwords, and just do those best practices so that you can enjoy the times that we live in and feel that sense of, who being where we are as a society, but don't do it without that little bit of caution in the back of your mind.
Wonderful. Patty?
Yeah, well said, both of you. Yeah, I would agree with everything they said. I think one of the other big things that we can really do is also just kind of making an effort to keep your work and personal stuff separate, right? So if you have, if you're using your work email, don't use it to sign up for alerts at Macy's if you're going online shopping or whatever. And, again, keeping your personal stuff separate. I recently received something. I'm on a distribution list from the FBI just because I attended a program about a year ago. And so now I kind of get some information, and especially with the holiday season, I mean, one of the things they really recommend is, get a credit card if you're going to go online shopping that is like just for online, and use a credit card, and don't ever use a debit card because mostly credit cards have more protection. But also on any of your personal accounts, as much as you can, whether you have Google for Mail or whether you have Microsoft, all of those offer, as Katie said, multi-factor or two-factor authentication, where you sign up to get a code texted to your phone and then you have to enter the code. That is huge. I mean, we have actually found here at work that has saved us so many times from hackers being able to get in. And just, like Maggie said, common sense. If you see a weird link in an email, I mean, one of the things you can do is don't click on the link, actually go in and, to a web browser like Chrome or whatever, type it in directly to see if it's kind of legit. So lots of little stuff that's not super complicated or technical that I think you can really do to help keep yourself safe, and especially this time of year.
Well, I watched, I know this sounds, I'm a big movie watcher and I love Catch Me If You Can. It's one of my favorite movies. But Frank Abagnale actually spoke at an RIS media event. And I will tell you, first of all, impressive, when you mentioned the FBI, because he does do work for the FBI now, because he obviously served, in jail. But then they said this mind has to be used in cybersecurity, and he is now one of the most sought after cybersecurity specialists in this country. And at the time that he spoke, Equifax had their huge, break, right? And so it happens every day, and the techniques to save yourself and to make sure that you do use secure passwords, and that second, the second, what's it called? The two-step authentication. I can't even say the word.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. As much as a pain in the butt it is, because we all think, oh God, I have to put this in again. It really does, make sure that you are, kept secure. And the one other thing that I learned recently, because we did training about it, was obviously you just mentioned that extra credit card, right? And I'm not promoting any company, but just find out this. I know PayPal has a program where you actually, they keep your credit card secure, and they block. And so you use their service. And then if something does happen, you call them and they'll take care of it. Your money is returned, reimbursed. And I absolutely love that, because sometimes with our credit cards and with some of the other companies, it's a little bit of a longer process. You have to investigate and all that stuff. They don't even, they're like, okay, if this is not I thought that was amazing. So that's, and you learn from it, right? Okay, I'm not going to do that. If you have any kind of your gut reaction, and you just said it, if your instinct immediately, trust your instinct. That's why it's there. Absolutely. Don't do it. Don't touch it. Don't, just let it go. Right. So I find also, let's talk about leadership, because this is what this show is about. And we kind of already talked a little bit about each of your roles and, what you do when we did your bio. So I really want to dive into leadership and in your journey. And I know that each one of you has probably had to pivot, to uncomfortable zones. What have you done where you thought, oh my God? And it sounds to me like you had to change and telecommute, do things that or commute, do things that really made you uncomfortable, but now you found, wow, I'm so glad I did that, and reaping those rewards for taking that step. And Patty, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, talk about pivoting. So not only did I not start up in real estate, I actually didn't start in IT. And so my background, when I went to college, I got my master's degree, was all in sports medicine. So interesting, you made the comment about sports, Teresa. But yeah, and so I worked in that field for a couple of years, and it just, at that time, this is back in the early 90s, I'm going to date myself. Women in that field just weren't, it just really wasn't up and coming as it is now, or accepted. And so it was a struggle, with just employment and things like that. So actually, on a whim, I just, left the job I had, went to a temp agency and said, I just give me a job so I can pay the bills until I figure out what I want to do. And that landed me in Wells Fargo, where I actually was put into an IT department to do spreadsheets, because at that point I knew how to do some stuff with Excel and whatever, and literally just launched my whole IT career from that point on. I mean, was very fortunate. They sent me to training, but if you would have asked me, when I was 22 years old, I was going to be in IT, I would say, no way, right? So that was a huge pivot for me, and honestly, probably the best thing that I did.
Well, you were a trailblazer back then, and you are today too, right? Because even to be in that personal space of the sports field is such a dynamic, and now being in the field that you're in. Katie, how about you?
So for me, I think one of the biggest risks that I took, that I'm so glad now that I did, was actually coming up to home services. So I'd been at Reese Nichols for nearly 11 years. I knew my team there. I mean, that organization is such an amazing family-oriented organization. And I honestly was on the precipice and ended up turning down the job that I'd been working for 10 years. I had put my sights on when I joined, and finally was offered that. And I said, you know what? There's something amazing going on over here at Home Services. We are at a pivot point as an organization that I have to be a part of this. And I will tell you what, I am not an enormous risk taker in my life. I'm a pretty much a type A planner kind of person. And I see Maggie smiling because she knows me way too well. But when I did that, it was scary. It was terrifying. It was leaving something that I knew that was a guarantee, and just taking a risk, and just knowing that if I didn't do it, I would regret it. And it has been one of the best decisions I ever made. Has it been always easy? Heavens no. But it's been a great opportunity to branch out, to grow, to learn more about this industry and both real estate and technology than I ever could have in my little bubble. And so super glad I did that. And so just to anyone listening, don't be afraid of taking those risks. You learn, even if you do fail, you're going to learn so much more from that failure than you are from the successes, that it's worth every moment. Just do it.
Oh, so inspiring. And it's so true, that I feel the same way at Home Services, taking that step of your outside of your comfort zone, really, because you're the expert. Everyone knows you. They come to you. You feel like you're, everyone's, you've got that comfortable position, but until you step out, you realize, oh my God, now I learned this, and I added this, and you really, and now I'm with another group. It's just amazing. It's great to do that, and great advice. Maggie, how about you?
Well, I'm smiling at Katie. Yes, I know her very well, but I was like, that's kind of me too. And in a similar, I guess, in a similar vein, for those who aren't, I guess, every day in what Home Services is, CBS Home Real Estate and BHHS Ambassador merged in, if I'm remembering right, I think the official was January 1st of 2019. So I had been at CBS Home for a long time. There were about 400 agents there. And so just the the pivot from 400 to over 1,000.
Wow.
And then, adding in Lincoln with home real estate and Woods Brothers, it was somewhere where I kind of started, and a coworker and I, actually, he was my replacement in Lincoln, and now I'm his manager today, because we kind of have merged networking and IT roles. And we always used to kind of laugh, because you kind of knew, these two cities are 45 minutes apart. There's some efficiencies there. And so, but to actually kind of see that come to fruition several years later it makes us smile. So yeah, I mean, it's similar, having to get to know, 1,000, 1,200 agents, versus the 400, and kind of stepping out of comfort zone, new boss, new management team, new sales managers to work with, kind of proving yourself over again. So, but yeah, I'm so happy I did. It's great here. We have a lot of fun. We get a lot of things done. And like I said, so it's been good. It was worth the, hey, let's do this. It might be hard right now, but this is really worth it in the end.
It's so scary, right? When you first do that, oh God, I don't know if I can do this, or what if I don't like it, or what if I don't like my new boss, or, all those things come to play. But I love being the Joan Doctor once said, just get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's when you start to really learn and expand your world. So I think, again, I really love that each one of you share your personal stories with us and our audience. One of the things that I learned when I was at HSF, and one of the opportunities I had, was actually visit Salesforce, because they were part of our CRM, and to go to San Francisco and meet with their individuals. And they are big about mentorship. And it was the first exposure I'd had of a company that really focused on mentorship. And that's one of the things, and my goals in 2022 is to mentor more women in our industry in different fields. And I'm going to ask each one of you to help me there. But currently, tell me, were you ever mentored? What do you believe in mentorship? And, do you have somebody that you work with currently? And anybody who wants to jump in this, let me know. And Patty, we talked about that Microsoft program. I think that's the technology area has realized, because of the lack of women and minorities in that whole industry, that's an area that we really need to focus in.
Yeah, Teresa, I'll jump in and kind of elaborate on that a little bit. I mean, so, again, back when I first started in IT with Wells Fargo, after a few years, I was very fortunate. I had an opportunity to kind of be mentored by some, more senior IT leaders and women, and who was, few and far between. And so that really helped me, gain confidence. And so I'm a big believer in kind of giving that back. And so I loved that Microsoft in this, kind of pre-COVID, did this DigiGirls program where, they went out and basically offered, it was about a full day of, all these different experiences to high school girls, to help them have exposure to the STEM fields, really, that you described earlier. And so being part of that and being able to be that sort of mentor to that group. I mean, it was short term, you'd go for half a day. But it was so cool to see these girls and and answer their questions about, how we got in our careers, and, things that we would do differently. And, Katie mentioned it earlier, and I just wanted to say this, but when, one of the big things that the girls would always ask is about, any advice, right? And the biggest advice I always said is, like, don't be afraid to fail. You've got to take some chances. And one of my co-mentors, who, was with me at the time, said a quote or comment that I hadn't heard, but thought was great, which is, fail actually stands for first attempt in learning. And so that totally resonated with me, and I just thought that was awesome. So I think the mentoring is really important. And I think we have to continue to do that today. I mean, even within home services and even within our companies, to help, those other women who are, maybe coming up or wanting to continue expanding their career in their field.
Oh, our first attempt in learning. I hadn't heard that one. So that I love, love, love. That's great. Great advice. Anyone else?
As I was thinking about this video today, and I was thinking about this exact question. I thought, I really have never had a mentor, but I realized, you know what, I have. And I think this is something that other people have to remember too, is mentorship isn't just this formal, I'm going to go to a program, or I'm going to say, Teresa, I think you're amazing. Will you please mentor me? It's as leaders being generous with our time, with the people around us, and being generous with our experience, and taking those opportunities when others offer that generosity. So for me, I've had amazing leaders that I've had the opportunity to work for, and had that opportunity to learn from them, even though it wasn't a formal situation. Those are the kinds of things that you also just have to keep in mind and keep out there. And as you're looking for, who am I going to help guide me in my career? Don't be afraid that, oh, I don't have a mentor. You do. It's those people around you who want to see you succeed, who want to help you succeed. And you just have to be open to those opportunities when they present themselves.
Oh, I love it. I will tell you that one of the books that I read early on, I'm not a book reader, but people know that I love Audible. And if you don't love reading, that's okay. There are so many great resources now. Was, Lean In, right? And Sheryl Sandberg says exactly what you just said. I really didn't have mentor, like officially, but I had mentors that I admired and that I learned from. So keep that in mind. Find somebody that, hey, I really respect Patty, Katie, Maggie. I'm going to watch what they do, study the things that they're involved with, and, maybe connect with them personally. You don't go to somebody and say, will you mentor me? Sometimes that doesn't work because people's busy, their crazy schedules, but you can seek others and seek advice and look at what others are doing, right? To see how you can also learn from their skill sets and what their path took them and what they did in order to get to where they are today. So I thought that was great advice in that book. I really enjoyed reading that part of it. So are there any particular training programs? I think this is really important, and one last thing I think is really important, because in STEM, one of the things that when I moved, I came from a very impoverished family. My parents didn't have money, right? But we moved from Miami to Mississippi, to Brandon, Mississippi, in a very nice, we were had the cheapest house, the least expensive house in a great neighborhood. It didn't matter, because what it was great was everyone around me was going to college. So the question that was asked of me was, where are you going to college? Which, from when I moved there, I was like, well, you're going to Mississippi State, or you're going to Ole Miss, because there's 2 colleges here and you got to choose which one you're going to go to. It didn't dawn on me to go to college. Like, that was not part of our family. We didn't go to college, right? I was the first. But that change really helped me in my mind say, okay, I'm going to go to Mississippi State. It was a different tune. And I've heard in STEM as well, what's your best math subject? You like algebra? Do you, or do you like, what kind of technology do you like? Instead of asking, why are you good? Are you not good? You're not good in these fields, to ask what's their best asset and then pursue that, because it changes that thought that women and minorities aren't good in those fields, right? Which is the perception for so many. I just thought that was so interesting. And I've heard that when I went to Salesforce. I thought that was interesting, going through there and learning from there. Are there, again, any programs that you think, or thought processes in pursuing tech jobs, that you would recommend? And that can be anyone that wants to jump in.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick, and it's not necessarily like a formal program, but one thing I just want to make the comment about within technology, which has changed so much, because it has exploded over the last 20 years, it actually has areas that have become completely specialized. So I think there's this perception sometimes that it's like, you're in IT and you're patching a server, or you're, locked in a closet writing code, or some of those. And it can be so much more than that, right? I mean, I kind of have equated it to the medical field, right? You've got an orthopedic surgeon, a cardiac surgeon, you've got all these different specialties, and that's really where technology has gone. And so I think, one of the big things, especially as people are, having an opportunity in their education, is try out these different areas and kind of see where you think it's good. And one other, this isn't a training, but this was a huge shift for me in the technology field was many years ago when I was at Wells Fargo. I think there was that perception that the IT people were not good communicators, not good people, and probably was some truth to that. And so they actually saw that, and as a IT manager at the time, required that I go to customer service training. It was a 5-day training. You actually got certified and then came back from the training and trained the rest of the IT department. And that was life-changing for me, because those are the skills that really having that, a lot of that you can't teach that, but I would just encourage anybody that's going into the STEM field, don't lose sight of the customers or the, personal relationship side. Learn how to do that, whether that's being a waitress on the side or whatever you have to do. But those are just invaluable skills.
I
Yeah,
think that's
Patty.
why you all have, like you guys all have that PR and background that has made you so successful. I mean, that's my opinion, but what do you
Yeah,
think?
and straight on. I mean, when I was out at Reese Nichols, I actually, when I would hire my help desk people, again, in an industry where we're a sales organization, we are trying to connect with our agents. I would go for, it was actually a prerequisite when I looked at people. Do you have retail experience? And do you have hospitality experience? Because I could hire those folks and I could teach them all these things about the technology. I can teach those pieces and they would be so much more successful than going the other direction. Because again, those soft skills are just so important in what we do. It's not just about the STEM pieces. It's about how you use that to communicate with the people around you to help them and enable them. And that's super important.
Oh my God, great advice. I love that. And great thought, as to those individuals, because we are working with the consumers too. And those agents represent, our people out that are looking at purchasing, the biggest investment that they are ever going to make. Maggie?
No, I would just very much what Katie and Patty said. I mean, I within the last probably 18 months hired a couple help desk people, and I don't look at really the IT side first. We look at customer service and service industry and just again the soft skills. From a career track perspective, as you are doing STEM and IT, whether it's networking or cybersecurity or whatever it is, add in things like communications and you're just going to go further. So it might push that person out of their comfort zone, but quite honestly, and you can hear it on this session today, that's what I think bosses and people are in hiring positions. That's a lot of what they're looking for. We have a help desk that our agents can office with them. They can walk right into the help desk, or it's phone, it's email. You need to smile and look up when that person comes in. It just makes you feel good. So
it does. It really does. So if you were starting, this is going to be a little trick. If you were starting all over again, thinking about fields now futuristic, hey, what's the field that would be most related or most opportunities or most growth that I see exploding today? Anybody who wants to throw that one, because I think that's really interesting. You think about AI and all the different analytical, things that we hear about, predictive, analytics and everything. What would you, and again, Patty, I love your explanation that there are more areas than one. You all are like doctor. I mean, medical doctors have to, my husband just broke his ankle and I had to go to 5 different doctors for different areas of that ankle break. So to make sure we got the specialists in each area. So what would you recommend? Any of you?
cybersecurity, probably.
Yeah,
I mean, that's obviously a big one.
Yeah, that's huge.
I've had help desk people that have finished up degrees in cybersecurity and are at some giant cybersecurity firms in Omaha. We have Offutt Air Force Base pretty close. So we have, employees that spouses work there in cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is huge. I don't know if anybody else has, I mean, there's a lot, right? We've already covered that, but.
Yeah, cybersecurity is huge. And I might also, you've got data science, which is also a big thing, when you think about AI and you think about all of the things that are out there in the world, but there's also another spectrum of technology, which is where I spend a lot of my time in. And that's in, you don't think about it, but everything we do is online. And that's a lot of communication. That's a lot of really creating experiences. So I think things like user experience and some of those areas that are a little bit more softer technology, but still require a lot of really, fine-tuned skills. That's another huge area that as we continue to expand how much of our lives we spend online and using these devices, I think is an opportunity for a lot of folks that maybe, they may not want to get real deep into the tech. Cybersecurity sounds like it does to me, scary, and I want to do. I respect and love Patty and Maggie for the time they spend in it. I know enough to be dangerous. I don't want to, but it opens up that other element to where there's opportunities for growth and success.
And I think you're right, Katie. That's probably the area I see the weakest link right now is in that soft, those skills. Even when we go in chat boxes and all that stuff, the frustration that we all feel when we're calling a number, and having people that really use that technology to really make it a beautiful, consumer experience altogether. Because today, that's where we lack. I love that. That's great. How about, let's talk about biases, because you guys, again, had to work with a lot of men in your field, or people that maybe wondered, hey, is she capable of doing the role or the job? Do you have any short stories to share with others about assumptions that might have been made about you? And again, I'm going to do Maggie first, and Katie, and then Patty.
I think mine was more, I started right out of college and looked really young. So when I was interviewing people that were probably twice my age, we obviously don't ask those questions, but I think that was more of it was always kind of fun to see the face when they said, oh, so you would be my boss. So I mean, that's more of it. It's been nothing, I guess, major, I would say. And, I remember when Patty started, and I remember working with Katie. So there have been women in leadership roles that it's, I can look to Patty, I can call Patty and Katie. And so from that standpoint, there have been other women in leadership roles in IT that I've always kind of seen. I guess they're visible to me.
And I think that is really great about the company in general, right? Because they're very focused on making sure that we have great diversity within the organization. Maggie, how about you? Katie, how about you? Sorry about that.
I had some same experiences Maggie did when I came in. I was 24, and my favorite nickname the agents would call me was Kiddo, and they still do to this day, bless their little heart. But
it's in a loving way, right?
Loving way, not a Southern way, yes. But for me, I wasn't quite as fortunate to also not have the kind of the bias from being in a very male-dominated field. And what I learned is that and I think this is true for whether you're up against this from a gender perspective or anything like that, you have to find different ways and strategies from which to deal with people from where they're coming from. And so being observant, and I realized that for some of these men that I worked with, I had to have a different tact with them than I did with other people. And sometimes that wasn't my favorite thing, but you know what? It got the job done. And I had to remember it's getting the job done. That's the most important thing here. And also another piece that was really important to me as I learned to cope with some of these things, and still do today, is know your stuff. You're going to have to prove more than anyone else in that room that you know what you're talking about. So know your stuff and be confident. Even if in your mind you're freaking out, guess what? We all are at some point. Be confident, know your stuff, and it may take time, but they will respect you, and you will be able to hold your own in that room.
Oh, great advice. I love it. Patty?
Yeah, gosh, that whole situation definitely happened early in my career, especially in sports medicine, right? So I actually had an opportunity as a student trainer to work when I was at Madison as a Division I college, and there were not a lot of women standing on the sidelines of the football field back in the 80s. And that was again, a lot of the men were kind of like, what is going on here? But you just have to persevere and you get through. And I think to Katie's point, your stuff, and you show them and you earn their respect, and and all that. And then over the course of the career, even transitioning to IT, you know, same thing. Real quick, I mean, one of the funny things I just remember was I was actually in a job interview for my position at Home Services with a manager, and he, you know, was talking to me and asking me normal questions. And then after, you know, the interview was getting close to being over, he said, gosh, he goes, you know, you are really kind of not like a normal IT person. You have communication skills. And I was like, thank you. I mean, but I think that was the stereotype, right? Coming in IT, kind of a nerd, you know, can't really do that. And so, you know, just again, having those people skills, communication skills, you know, really helped to kind of break that down. And for me, it's absolutely helped, you know, through my career. So.
Oh, I totally agree with you and him on that comment, you know, and I think it's true. Those stereotypes that we all have, no matter what industry you're in, there's always those stereotypes. And especially for women, it just really is. And then again, for the techie fields, I think for sure. All right. I can't believe it. Can you believe our hour is almost over? I'm enjoying this so much. So we got 2 more questions left. I always want to hear, because people love, there are avid readers. What is a book that has influenced you as a businesswoman, as a professional in technology, and why? And I'll start with you, Maggie, and then Patty, and then Katie.
Okay, so not related to tech at all.
Which is great.
But, and also on Audible. There's a lot of commute time between Lincoln and Omaha, but just, you know, this year I listened to a book. It's Soundtracks. It's by author John Acuff. And a lot of it's about what you tell yourself in your head. So you have a lot of those mental conversations in your head, mindset, those types of things. I have a 10-year-old daughter who a lot, and I alluded to that with coaching, but I mean, a lot of that, you know, it's not about the strikeout. It's about how you pick yourself up and walk back out. And that's stuff that try to work with her on, but I mean, it applies. She's 10, I'm 40, it still applies. So it applies across the board. So that's been a good one. Along with Tribe of Mentors, I had a real estate agent give it to me when I became a manager. I'm still friends with him today. And that's just an overall good book about leaders and different leadership roles, and it's digestible content, small. So.
Well, I want to definitely get those. Those are 2 new, and I definitely want to read them. It sounds fun, or listen to them. It sounds awesome, amazing. Thank you, Katie, or is it?
So for me, I love to read to escape. So reading books for business is not typically something that I do, and they certainly have to be super digestible. So when I do that, whether it's through Audible or actually sit down to read the book, one for me that has constantly stuck out and has come back to even years after reading it is by Patrick Lencioni, which I know is a very popular author within our organization. And this book has gotten some, talk as well. It's The Ideal Team Player. For me, leadership and being a part of this, being a part of any organization, it's not so much about what you do on your own. It's what you do with those around you and what those around you as a team do together. And there was, at the time that I read this, I was building a very, new and innovative team within Home Services. And what really was, I got out of this is it's not just the right skill sets that you bring to the table. It's who these people are and how they work together. It's the culture that you create. And you can do so much more with the culture of a team that is a high performance, really well-jived team than just the right people with the right skill sets. So that to me was an amazing book. It really put in perspective as a leader, as a manager, the kinds of folks that I should be surrounding myself with and surrounding my team with. And it's definitely something that, especially for those of you who may go, oh, business books, I don't want to read those. It goes fast. It doesn't feel like one. Go for it. His books are all
what
like
great
that.
recommendations, guys. I don't have any of these on my list, so I'm really excited. My December is going to be great. How about you, Patty?
Well, I have two things. One is it was a book, and it's old time, tried and true, kind of that Who Moved My Cheese, because I do think that still resonates today. I mean, you have to be able to change, you have to adapt, you have to be flexible. Again, all of us have just talked about how we've come across changes in our career. Maybe things didn't go exactly as we planned, but ended up doing the right thing. You have to be able to, again, keep that positive attitude and change with the times. But then on a more modern level, and this is, I don't have, I love to read, but I don't have a lot of time for reading books. So I do the Audible, I do podcasts, things like that. And I started listening to, I think it came out in the last few months. So Hoda Kotb from the Today Show started her own podcast, and she's interviewing, all of these different folks, famous people from all different walks of life. And a lot of it is all about the challenges that they've overcome in their life. I mean, some of them have horrific stories of, whether it was, abuse or whatever they had to overcome, and how they, got to be where they are today. And I just find that so interesting, especially, in the last couple of years. It's been really challenging with COVID. People have been super stressed out, and, all of that. So I actually find that very refreshing, and it's kind of reminds me too to appreciate what I have, but also to just, persevere and overcome.
I love her podcast. I absolutely think I love her to begin with.
Yeah.
So the way she speaks and approaches in a positive way. So what a great, I love it. All right, last one, real quickly. Favorite quote. Tell us something that resonates with you, starting with you, Katie, Maggie, and then Patty.
I am someone who, I actually don't really know that I have a favorite quote, but for me, it is just things that I guess the one thing I would leave folks with is, I think, going off of what Maggie said a little bit ago with the book that she had recommended, is you can't control what happens to you, but you control how you react to the things around you. And that right there is something that, for me, is constantly something I have to remind myself, and gives me a lot of strength as I move forward in every day of my career. So that's something that, if I can at least give some advice instead of a quote, that's the one thing that I would throw out.
I love it. That's great. It's so true. So true.
Mine, and I don't even know who said it, but I heard it from a boss all the time. Good luck starts with hard work. So I've heard that kind of over and over, and never kind of say that in my head. And then just from an IT perspective and technology and what we do, there's an Einstein quote: if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And to be able to,
great.
Yeah, and it just kind of resonates with being able to explain the new technology that you're standing in front of a sales meeting launching.
That's great. Great. Patty?
So yeah, I'm not, I don't have a ton of quotes, but I will say this one, and it is, again, kind of goes way back, and it's very simple, but it's just, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. And that resonated with me so much. It's Wayne Gretzky, big hockey player. Midwest is a big hockey place. But it's so true. And it really goes back to that whole, don't be afraid to fail. You got to take some risks. And I tried to, even when my kids were growing up, to really, say that, don't be afraid. I'd rather see you try something and fail than not try something at all out of fear or whatever. So again,
that is one of my favorites. I used to coach soccer, and that was so appropriate. I always thought it was a soccer player, but I knew it was Wayne. But I would always say, take the daggum shot. If you don't take it, you're never gonna know if you're gonna make it. Right. So it was like, you're gonna miss, if you don't take the shot. So I think those are great. I love it. Love it. Thank you so much, all of you, for providing all your insights today. I really enjoy getting to know each of you and the critical roles that you play in our industry, and how much we all have in common. It's what I've learned with all of our leaders that have been part of this program. And I really find what you do and your experience and so enlightening for me. I found this quote, which I thought was so embodies what I learned from each of you today. And that's: treasure your curiosity and nurture your imagination. Have confidence in yourself. Do not let others put limits on you. Dare to imagine the unimaginable. And that's how you're going to make a difference in life. And that's by Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson. I thought that was awesome. So I want to thank all of you and our audience for joining us today. I'm so grateful to all of you who have dedicated, our dedicated viewers who've tuned us in this entire year. Our next show is going to air on January 12th, 2022, and we're going to feature the communications and PR gurus in our industry so we can get our social media calendars and everything ready for 2022. So mark your calendars for that. And always remember, you can catch the shows and watch them, right? And listen to them. We're now on podcast. So that if for those that miss shows, you're able to do that. And don't forget to join our Facebook page as well. And we will have our YouTube channel that you can also catch up. And last thing, remember to always bring other women up the ladder with you as you climb to the top. Stay safe and have a wonderful holiday season. And I look forward to seeing you all next year. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.